And for him to throw a knife at my mother's leg to not come and hit, that she hit me, that I was doing something not good. I would chew the bean and spit it in his plate, and he would eat it. And my mom was getting furious with that. So for him to do that to his sister, so I gotta tell you, everybody's got a little piece of my love and heart, and but I wish my dad and mom could come back. I never realized to this day how much I had and how much I would give to have them back one more day. Just one more day to make it, tell them thank you and how much I love them, and what they did for us was, I can't imagine anyone else doing it.
Yes. Yes.
So
if you still have a piece of that Catholic faith, which I do, is that you'll see them again and be able to tell them that, right?
I hope
I
so.
still believe that.
I really do.
Yeah. I think so.
But again, you just don't know how, and I guess there is a God for real, because he puts you in connection with who and what you're part of.
Right.
You just didn't make it by coming from ashes. You really have a piece of somebody else in you, with you all the time.
Yes. Yes. I agree.
But other than that, I when I went back, as I said, the first time, I had all of this in my brain. And when I went to my mom's hometown, and I had to go to the church and the convent and certain places, that little wall where the priest said he was going to pull my teeth out. And I had to make sure that it was like there, because it was like a dream, but it wasn't.
Did you get pictures?
No. At that time, I don't remember why I didn't. I don't remember.
It's because Frank wasn't there.
Sounds like we need a road trip.
Wait,
the first time I went back, and it just that I said, oh my God, I sat on this, and I remember the priest coming here, and this is the rock that I used to sit on when my Georgette used to bring me my candy bar. I was so into it that I didn't want to take time to take pictures. It was weird.
Well, we can bring some of these cameras and we can document the whole thing. Would you go back?
Oh my God, I would.
Frank just said we got to do a road trip.
What I said to Frank, and when I went to my little cousin Erminia, she was about 11, and in my father's hometown, and I says, Erminia, Nana Chiara, which is my father's mother, used to bring me to a fountain, or not a fountain. It was like a spring coming out of a rock that they attached a faucet to. I said, down the street down there. Oh, yeah, come, I'll show you where it is. And she brought me to it, and I see this water fountain, and the water's coming out of it. And it just freaked me out, because I pictured my grandmother there, and I was like 5. And when we go for our walk, whether she was picking figs or whatever, I don't remember, but she would make a cup out of a leaf, because we didn't have, so
Dixie
she'd
cup.
make me a cup out of a leaf, and I'd drink my water from that. So, and I said to her, oh my God, and it just, my body was shaking, because I was 30 years old, and we're going back, and I'm picturing my grandmother there making this little cup for me out of a leaf. So going back to all these things, I didn't think to take pictures, and
Sure.
I think I had to satisfy my brain that it was real,
Right.
that it wasn't.
Would you go back now?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
The problem is my husband doesn't have, he doesn't want to go. And I said, why? I want to show you where I'm from. What? I know. He said, we'll do it someday. I said, but you're 83 and I'm 79. And what are we going to have to get somebody to help us go there? It's not
Right.
the way it works. And I think because he doesn't have a relative there that has part of this memory, that has the draw to pull you there.
Well, I don't, and I want to go.
But to think that you can go at this house that you were born in or raised in.
Oh, that's wild.
And I remember my father's cantina downstairs, which is now my cousin Franco. It's his house now, because my
the
uncle.
cantina.
The cantina. But this is what's funny. A couple of weeks ago, there is a festival in the hometown of Falconata every year, that they have a saint that they're trying to make. You know how you go through the church to make beautification.
Yeah.
Her name is Elena Aiello, and they have a feast for her every year until she becomes a saint. She has performed 3 miracles. I don't remember how many you have to perform to become a saint, but my cousins were there at the party, and all of a sudden somebody comes across to this gallon of wine quickly, and it says Cantina di Minuzzo. That was my father's brother, but my father started the cantina, but then he gave it to the brother, and now the son, which is my cousin, to my uncle, his son, makes wine and has a label on it, where it really would have been Cantina di Giovanni, but it's Minuzzo, his brother.
Right.
So I sent it to Frank, and it's like, it hit me in such a way. I love my uncle Minuzzo, and I love my cousin Franco, but it's like, wait a minute, that was my father's, but he wasn't there. He gave it up.
Right.
You know, so he gave it to them. So yeah, all right, they can enjoy it. You know, that kind of thing. You have to,
Sure.
you know, but
Yeah.
And then I called Aldo, and I said, he goes, yeah, I knew that was Franco's label.
Okay.
He had his own label.
Nice.
So it goes to show you the connection. My father had a dream, built this little house, and it was a tiny little house. It was only like 2 rooms.
Yeah.
And now Franco added to it. But that's what I did the first time, just satisfy the brain that, yeah, this really happened.
That's
It
great.
existed.
That's so great.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you do it again now, you'll have an even different perspective,
I do.
right? Because now if you bring your children and your grandchildren and they get to experience it through vicariously through you,
Uh-huh. And I have to
it
show.
it may not even click with them for another 20 years,
Right,
but eventually they'll go, oh,
Yeah, and I remember where the ladies used to wash clothes in my mother's hometown. There was just water coming out of some fountains that were out of the rock, and everybody would wash their clothes. You know, certain family members would wash on a Monday or two, but they all took turns using the fountain to wash their clothes. And these are the things where I bring, you know, would it mean anything to Frank? Probably, because he doesn't, I mean, he'll recall it. Yeah, it's part of my mom's world. But I think that I felt the water, played with the water, touched the water when I was 5. And now it's so different. But yet,
yeah.
you know, what's in my head, it's hard to put in somebody else's head. Do they appreciate it? Maybe. Like my daughter probably wouldn't. I don't know what it is. She never had that connection she does love my parents, and they loved her too. Don't get me wrong, but I think Frank had more of a draw to cherish my father's heritage,
Yeah.
which was part of mine, but he saw my father's more.
Right.
I don't know why, but my daughter's like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, that's Franco, or that's, you know, this one. It's okay.
It's whatever.
Is she the one that we call more Americanized?
Well, for me, sitting here listening to you, I think about it in this regard is that I think you do it now and you get things recorded, all of it recorded, because even though somebody in present moment may not. So here's me, right? I just always assumed my mother would be there, always, forever. There was never a time where I ever thought about she wouldn't be here, and then cancer showed up, right? And so it literally, we wouldn't be here now if she was still alive, because I wouldn't be doing this. What do I care?
True.
And so I think as many people that are willing, I'm willing to, because you do it now, you get it all. And then if and when the moment comes, it may be, your daughter may be the one that really appreciates it the most post hosponimus or whatever the word is, that once you go and that story, it can't be told. I don't know if you felt the magic moment. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. The magic moment is your middle name.
Oh gosh.
Right? Today for me, the magic, there's all kinds of magical moments, but when your son, who knows you better than anybody, had no idea about your middle name, and he learns about it in real time right now, and it's recorded forever, right? You'll always have that moment of just that. Then all of this is worth it.
Correct.
And then you go back to the homeland and it's, part of it for me is watching The Godfather and really loving The Godfather. And there's this scene in Italy that was filmed that almost never made it to the movie, right?
Right.
If you watch it, right? If
Right.
you're familiar with it, almost never made it to the movie. And so that piece was really, really good. And it was authentic. It wasn't shot.
No.
It was shot in Italy. You know what I mean? It was just, and so you getting to do that version of yours and saying, I played in this spring and did this thing, and we get that little video there, and you put all of this together, and then somebody goes away and isn't here anymore. I mean, it just becomes incredibly valuable.
Being at the convent was very, I think, traumatizing, but yet my father had no other choice. But with the nuns being in the so Catholic, and I don't even know the word to say, but
yeah,
when we went to bed at night, I couldn't sleep with the orphans because my dad was paying the convent to take care of me, better care.
right.
I slept with the nuns.
Mm-hmm.
So when the nuns slept, it was a big dormitory,
Okay.
And they had these big statues with a candle at the feet of the statues, and they would flicker. So as a child, I'm thinking these statues are going to come to life, and I would cry or wet the bed. So it was fear, but I had no other choice. So they would say to me to sleep with my hands crossed across my chest or sleep with this way. And they would come in the middle of the night and change my position in bed. And I say to them, why, and they say, well, if you die, you're going to be an angel. And that, so, and then you see the statues. It's like, I'm surprised I'm not a wacko piece. Because
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the impact of something like that is massive. I mean, even as you're talking, and again, comparison is the worst form of self-torture. So it's not a comparison, but my parents just got divorced and I had traumatic issues with that for a lot of years. I mean, there's a lot of other things going on there, but that really screwed me up. You lost the nurturing parent,
Yeah.
right? So the one person in the world,
I mean,
the two people in the world, but
yeah.
but really
and my
the one.
father was working, taking care of his business, but
Yeah.
and then some days in the convent, all the orphans would take a walk down the village, and they all had to wear the little white pinafore or whatever. But they always put me at the back of the line, and I never knew why until later on when it hit home. My great grandmother, when we go by the house, and that's why I can't wait to show Frank this window. She would see me, and she would throw me not a candy, a biscuit, a cookie. And I had to put my apron out like this so she can get it in my apron. And I had to eat it so the orphans wouldn't see it, that I would have a treat, And that was my mother's grandmother.
Wow.
That would throw me a cookie while the orphans were walking with the nuns. And I had one nun behind me that made sure that I got the cookie.
Yep. Yep.
So
yeah.
it's so much in my brain, but happy and sad. I that's where I'm having a hard time keeping it, but it's not together, it's separate.
Okay.
The happy times and the sad times.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if you put it in the book, it's a hard thing to do.
Separating the happy and the sad times.
Yeah.
I think everybody kind of has their own perspective. So if we witness the same event happening, you may see it as happy and I may see it as sad. You may see it as important. I may see it as, it's not that important. Right. So we're each event kind of holds a different, and again, like I said,
that's probably the age too, is where you can't decipher what,
Right. Yeah. You don't even know how to feel. 'Cause you alluded to it earlier, which is everybody's crying. You're like, why is everybody crying? Right. You're inquisitive. You're not sad. It's not an unhappy moment for you.
But at that age, that crying is not a good thing. Isn't that weird?
And so you're like, this must be a sad moment. I'll cry too, I guess. And so like you see that with twins. I love twins because one of the twins cries and the other one's right. It's kind of
cry.
yeah. So, and you know, the fact that you went through and experienced all of these things and came out mostly positive about most of that. I mean, you know, and again, your relationship with your mother, you know, could be a subconscious thing where, you know, why did you leave me? I had to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't have a choice. Yeah, but you left me. I still feel, you know, so
Yeah.
fear of abandonment is a very real result
imagine
of.
saying this is your mother and you're 5 years old. It's like,
Yeah.
what is that word anyway? Mother, you know?
Right.
Because I knew my grandmother, my great-grandmother, I knew my aunts, cousins, but it's amazing. I can't picture my mom into that time of my life where only that one, where she wrapped me in this cape that was rough against my face. I knew that it was my mother holding me then. So I can't recall anything after that.
I think part of it is that, you know, the mind, your brain kind of maybe isolated that whole thing because it was, you know, you've got some strong feelings about, you know, young children. They say that by the age of 4, they have everything that they need for the rest of their life. You know, they say that. If that's true or not, I don't know. But those developing years, coming from my perspective and watching my wife's connection to my 2 children and breastfeeding both of them and having that really strong nurturing to the current day, right? Because one of the things we butt heads in this house is I think they need more pressure, not less. Because I think pressure helps build you into the person that you're going to become.
You're absolutely
Don't
right.
make it so easy for them. Don't do everything for them.
You can't.
Let them learn, right? Let them feel, right? So when our son is feeling a little upset because of something, let him feel
let him
that.
chill. No, I think that's nonsense. Yeah, he's got to chill, but he also has to know why you did what you did, and it's not acceptable.
Let him experience that,
You know?
so that like you experienced that nobody sat down with you and
No.
okay, we're going to let you stay over here for a while. We have to, but then we're going to.
My brothers were eating, and I was the one that couldn't come out of Naples to get on a boat because they thought I had tuberculosis because I wasn't being taken care of with the foods and stuff that they were getting, the nourishment.
Right.
I wasn't because with being in a convent orphanage, you're not getting nourishment there.
Yeah.
You know, I remember getting powdered milk in the orphanage. Right. That's what they were getting. I mean, whereas my brothers were having goat milk and, you know, a breakfast made. We didn't have that. We were having bread. And then my father was a poor thing. He didn't know because he was paying the nuns to take better care. But if that's all they had in the institution, how are they going to go get me cereal? It was just bread and powdered milk.
Well, let's pretend that you had a moment there and you needed to feel connected to your people. Mm-hmm. You didn't have it. It wasn't in that room.
No.
There was nobody there that was your people, right? So regardless of the milk or the quality of the milk, you also had this complete and total abandonment that you had to figure out, like, okay, I guess they still love me, right? I don't know. I mean,
and that's why this my mother's cousin. Well, she married my mother's cousin, Georgette, would bring me a candy every week.
Your mothering came from other people. The biscuit, right? That's what gave you the connection to family because your parents were busy or they did, whatever, right? I mean, just there was a time of anyway. So yeah, I think there's a need for that. And then you grow up and then you don't, people have the guy yesterday I told you about, Stan, who's also 79. He was telling the story about, he's got one of 4 sons. One of his 4 sons hates him right now and they don't talk.
Oh.
And he had received a text from him that said, and he quoted it back to me verbatim about, in essence, it was, well, you're the one that moved 1,000. This is the son to the father now. You're the one that moved 1,000 miles away for a loveless relationship. And the father had absolutely moved and lived with somebody for 30 plus years. She just died of cancer. Mm. And so here's this exchange. And I thought, well, if you interpret that differently. And so he was very hurt by this. And he's like, well, my son's the one that screwed up his marriage. And blah, blah. He gets very defensive. And I'm like, well, I think if it was said another way, it's I'm really hurt that we don't have a better relationship. I wish we had a better relationship. That's what the son's really trying to say to you, right? And then really what happens is when you're in those broken, being from a divorced family, when you're in those broken relationships, you almost self-persecute, right? You really make it, you suffer more on purpose, right? So it's better for the son to say you're in a loveless relationship than it is for you to say you went there for love and you choose that person over me. It's better to say, not only did you choose that person over me, but you don't even love her and she doesn't even love you back. Boy, that's really, you're really self-persecuting yourself, right? And so, the road back to, them patching it up, I don't know. That's what I was telling him, the thing that I'm doing with people and doing this family thing and kind of so you go the documentary route where you say, okay, now who else would be interested? We have your brothers come in, they start telling some stories, then we start connect the whole dots. We create a whole project based on this. It'll be a lot of fun, right? But I can't do it for my family.
Yeah.
There's phone calls I can't make.
That's true. That's so true. I'm so connected in different facets that I can piece and put it together. Whereas when you don't have anything to piece together. See, with my older brother, he was 4.5. What memory do you have at 4.5? Not much.
Right.
And at 21 months, there's none when you think about that. I know they were loved. And I know I was too, but in a different way, you know. So I think in my brain, I have more of the trauma, sad, fear happenings, than some of the good.
Sure.
When I was in Italy, I can't recall happy times.
Right.
I really can't, and I don't know why that is. And sometimes it does make me upset.
Sure.
Because I'm thinking, I was never happy there, right? I couldn't have been.
Yeah,
I probably was, but I can't find it.
There's this underlying theme too that boys are more important than girls, right? It's
very true. And I wanted to say to my father and my mother at one time is, what made you decide that our grandparent couldn't take another one?
Right.
Why did you do that?
Right.
Oh, we thought it was better for you to be with the women, with the nuns. Like my grandmothers were women.
Women, right.
So, but I always felt that, that they got treated, but they were younger and I was older. What does that mean?
Irrelevant.
So there was always a hurt in me on that.
Yeah.
So, but I had to let it go to a degree because it's like they did it for us to make it better.
Right.
But yet, like, I had to pay the price. It was me.
Yes.
But I don't think I paid the price as much as my parents did to sacrifice. I just felt that that's a hell of a choice to make.
One of my best ones was, the worst thing to happen to you is the worst thing that happened to you. Right? So we have this modern day thing where we go, okay, look, this person went through this, like the Holocaust sufferer, all of us. There aren't many people on the planet that can compete with that.
Right.
I survived for 3.5 years at 4 different concentration camps, Auschwitz being the worst of the worst. I watched people die every day. There aren't too many people that can compare with that. However, once because he's a psychiatrist, he released this logos therapy thing into the world, and he started to get tons of people coming to him saying, how do I get over this thing? How do I deal with this thing? He would say, because they would say, well, I didn't go through what you went through, so why am I having such a hard time getting over the loss of my wife? This was an example. Highly religious guy comes. He had been to 3 different counselors, and nobody could help this guy. Severely depressed. His wife had passed away, and he just could not get back to living. And so this guy, the Viktor Frankl guy, says to him, he says, well, let me ask you this. And this is what I would say to you, right? If the roles were reversed, if your brothers were the ones that were sent somewhere else, how would it have turned out? That probably would have them up. They weren't strong enough to deal with what I dealt with, right? So like, you're strong, right? You dealt with some shit that they never had to deal with. which is probably why they don't remember it. I don't remember that. I was just out kicking rocks. I was having a good time. I don't have any trauma. I was fine. I was fed. I was blah, 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 whatever, right? Whatever the reality is. It would be cool to hear the reality because if
Well,
whatever
I don't know if they'd have a memory of it, though.
They might not even remember,
That's the thing, too. It's like, what do you mean? I experienced it and I remember it. So is that making me or making you better? I'm like, no, but then I think about it when I'm by myself and I said, well, that's what made my character.
That's right.
And that's what made my strength.
That's right.
And that's where I'm saying I'm going to persevere.
Yes.
Because later, when I came to this country and I went through school and everything, it's like I made it.
Yes.
And then it got time where I was going to high school and I was supposed to graduate. And then I met my husband and my father didn't want me to marry a half Italian. So I was going to Italy. I was like, what do you mean I'm going to Italy? Yeah, we'll find you somebody to marry over there. Like, no, we're not doing that. I'm an American now, right? So here I was at 18 and I met my husband at 16, but not girlfriend, boyfriend, just in casual. But then I knew I wanted to marry him and he, and my father wouldn't have it. Why? Because his father used to drink.
Mm-hmm.
And my father's thought process was the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So he didn't want to let his daughter could be married to somebody that's going to start drinking, right? So I said, no, I'm marrying this guy. That's it. So he didn't want me to marry him. And I think I threatened him with becoming a nun, my mom and dad. But if I can't marry him, I'm going to be a nun. So I don't know. I challenged them very, very badly. And they finally said, okay, fine. When you want to get married. So pick the date and I picked a month. And I mean, I got to tell you, for my husband not to put up with all the beliefs and traditions of the Italian, but his grandmother was Italian.
Mm-hmm.
But in my father's mind, not a real Italian. You know what I mean? He's not a real Italian. His grandmother was Italian, but he's not a real Italian. But we went through all that and I didn't graduate high school. But in the meantime, I'm thinking, okay, if I'm not going to graduate high school, I have to learn something. So I was a hairdresser. I went to beautician school. I was a real estate agent. I worked at the Berzons as a little mini maid. So it was like my father. I did everything I had to do. And then I got married and I had my daughter and I worked nights. And I worked at the phone company at Greenwich Hospital as a switchboard operator. And I always regretted not graduating. So in Connecticut, I had my real estate license, sold our home, moved here. And then when I came here, the first job I got was working for a law firm. And I filled out the application and it said, when did you graduate? I was like, oh, shit. So, but I thought, you know what? I just put down the year I would have graduated, but I felt guilty. So
How many kids do you have? 2. Remember?
So,
that's where you got that one from.
Right.
2.
So
Yeah,
I
that's
said-
it. Just 2.
So I went to Valencia
Mm-hmm.
and I asked a couple of questions and they said, well, the courses and all. And I told them the whole story and they said, oh, well, you could have an exam like life experiences. I said, really? I never thought of that. So I said, that ain't good enough. So I went to Orlando Vocational and I went to a couple of classes there and for my GED. So I filled out everything out and I went to, I think, 2 or 3 classes. And then the end came where you had to do a thesis on, your just life in general to see how you use your grammar and how you use your punctuation marks and, paragraph and, all of that. So, well, I did that. And then I was getting nervous and I was still working for the law firm as a liar that I didn't graduate. So I said, so finally, I think after a week, I get the paper and you're supposed to get 100 and I got 115. Like, oh, they were very surprised. Well, the subject I chose was I couldn't understand between Connecticut and New York where you had you had to be 18 to drink in one state and 21 to drink in another.
Yes.
And then I chose some subjects of that. And at that time, there was a very serious fire in one of the nightclub bars that the kids used to go to, right on the line. Greenwich, Connecticut, New York, and Connecticut.
Yeah.
So kids would swap each other's IDs.
Yeah.
And that night that the fire was on, my mother's cousin's daughter borrowed my sister's ID, and the fire happened at Gulliver's. And luckily, Roseanne, my mother's cousin's daughter, had left early. But imagine, that was the subject I chose, and I got a good grade, and I got my GED, and like, wow, I don't have to lie anymore, But it wasn't really, to me, the graduation certificate, but it showed that my life experiences, I know how to use my grammar and my words, and I think life experiences sometimes is not the book part of it.
Right.
It's just how you make yourself better.
Yes.
So being in all these other professions, I was determined that I was not gonna make it. I'm gonna make it.
Right.
So while the kids were growing up, I worked on weekends as a hairdresser, and at nighttime at the phone company.
Which phone company?
New York Tel.
New York Tel, as a switchboard operator.
Yes.
Like literally plugging.
Literally, that we didn't have it was all, with the pull cords.
Wow.
Yeah. And a couple of times I'd listen in on those conversations. Oh, boy.
I still remember those days when somebody could be on there. You'd hear a click and you're like, are they listening?
Yeah, if you go back really, you wouldn't hear the click.
So you could get by the click. All right.
Yes, you can get by the click. But if you didn't do it right, somebody would say, did you hear that?
Yeah.
No, I didn't hear a thing.
That's
But
funny.
we could hear all the conversations. But the chords was when I first saw them and I went to her, I'm like, who the hell is going to be? But you knew.
Right.
And that's when I got the company. I went to work at Greenwich Hospital from the phone company when I worked days now because the kids were in school.
Right.
So I was able to use not too many people knew how to use the phone system.
Right.
The hospital, that's all they had was the cords and the plugs.
Gotcha.
So that's
So it's like a little patch center right there in the hospital is what you're saying. So you would connect calls to people, to rooms and stuff? Is that what it is?
Yeah, to the rooms or,
Okay.
to the rooms. And then we had to do codes.
Okay.
Oh, when the nurses would
Code
call
blue
code
or-
blue. Yeah, and then you have to take a deep breath and announce it throughout the hospital. It's like, yeah. So don't tell me somebody can't make it here.
Right.
There's no reason that you can't pick yourself up and make yourself better. And it doesn't have to be in that. I don't care if it's sweeping the streets. There's a job for everybody. And it's up to you.
The will to work and needs to be
And
there.
my father's words, and it's amazing how I think I was 8 or 9 years old with my father sat us down, me, Rico, and Aldo. And my father says, because you're not American, you have to work harder. We didn't understand that. I said, what do you mean we got to work harder? We're Americans. Yeah, but you're really not Americans. The Americans that are here, it's expected of them. Whatever they want, they can get. But you have to prove yourself to get it. So I'm thinking, no, we don't have to. But as you get older, then you hear those words. It's like you have to work harder because they don't make it easier for you.
Right.
But the Americans, they just can go on and on and on. It's like it's an expected thing. But in the beginning, when they notice you're a foreigner,
Right.
it's not easy.
And the great part about that whole thing is it literally comes down to who got here first. So whoever got here first, they dug in and then made it hard for everybody else or
Right.
impossible in some cases. And so those people had no choice but to band together, figure it out, go forth and, the monsters of industry, some of the companies that are still in existence to this day started with that monopoly mindset, which is, this is mine, you'll never get in, good luck.
Right.
Pharmaceuticals, it takes $2 billion to bring a drug to market in the United States.
It's crazy.
driven by the companies that make the drugs. They
That
literally did
shouldn't
that on
happen. They
purpose.
shouldn't allow that to happen.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. It.
So even if you do in your garage to discover the cure for something or some great medicine, you have to sell it to one of the big companies because there's no way you're going to have the
Right.
$2 billion to bring it to market because the requirements are so stringent that you've got to
But while
do.
that was happening, why wasn't there a control of, like saying, wait a minute, we got to have have the guidelines, we got to have the limit, and we have to have this is your zone, and
Well, there's FDA, 60% of the FDA is funded by the big company, the big pharma companies. And so it becomes down to this. There's a number for you, right? And there's a number for me. So everybody is on the take. That's literally for pharmaceuticals
so then they
anyway.
call that they don't call that mafia, huh?
You would think
When
so.
when you think about it, that's how the mafia got created. It's like, no, we'll help you, but you're gonna have to do something for us.
It's exactly right. It should be illegal. And there's stuff happening these days where these peptides, I don't know if you know what these peptides are. I don't even really know what they are, but in essence, they're gaining popularity. And so big pharma sees all this momentum in these, it's what they call it, compound pharmacies or some whatever, right? And so these peptides are being created that are helping people. And so big pharma is killing them. We need to classify these as whatever, whatever the classification is. And once they get that classification, those compound pharmacies can no longer manufacture peptides.
Right.
Bzz, killed. Right. And so.
But yeah, you get the companies like Wegovy, and that was the pioneer of it all.
Right.
Like my brother Aldo is trying to get it because he's got an issue with his liver. And but because he's borderline diabetic, you're like 2 digits below it. You're not, because he's overweight, and it'll help him move better because of the spinal cord injury. But if you want Wegovy out of pocket, it's $1,900 a month.
Right.
But if you're over that line, it's only $200 a month. But it's not right.
Right.
So where is the FDA? Because it's a bank, I think. It's money.
Right.
Put more money in my pocket and I'll protect you.
Right.
It's mafia to me.
It is. Totally. And then, so then there's some good documentaries on Netflix that talk about, I think it's called Painkiller or something. So this is the family that created the pain meds that they knew that was going to, anyway. So the FDA was, hey, we need to get this through. We need it to say this. Oh, I can't have it say that. And it took a couple of years, but it was, come on out and meet with us, and there's girls there and there's the party and there's the whole, and hey, all right, I know you can't say this, but say this, might, could, whatever, right? They changed the terminology to get it through. 2 years later, that guy has a job at the pharmaceutical company at 150% more than his salary was when he was with the FDA.
Wow.
Does that sound like mafia? Right? I mean, what are we doing? And nobody gets in trouble.
It's amazing.
Nobody goes to jail for that stuff. But that's a real case of, and that epidemic that just swept through our country and ruined tons of people. I hurt my back. I need some relief. And now I'm stuck, hooked on this pain med and I can't get off. That whole epidemic, right?
I have a cousin at the moment that Montefiore Hospital. He has leukemia, and it's very bad. So he's there for a month, and he was a drug addict before this. So now they're doing so much with the chemo. They're putting it in his spine and in his bones, and they can't give him any painkiller because that's how bad addictive it would become.
Right.
So I can't imagine somebody putting chemo into my spine because I can't take a painkiller.
Right.
Microphone. Move it closer.
Yep.
So that, and it just, so again, it brings you back to so much in life at 79 years old, thinking, crap. I mean, I had my son go through that, and that in itself was the fear of all fears. For me, nobody wants their child to suffer, you know. So now I'm putting myself in my aunt's brain. She's 90,
Wow.
and she had a very bad relationship with him because of his drugs. So now she hasn't talked to him really in 8 years.
Right.
So now he's at Montefiore and she's going to see him regularly now. So as a mother, I mean, he puts you through hell and back. I mean,
Right.
literally robbed a lot from her.
Right.
I mean, jewelry and money, but now he's still your son and he's suffering.
You can find meaning in suffering, and that's an example, right? He's
So-
facing death and
I'm saying, what is he thinking? Is he
yeah.
saying, I'm being punished for what I did? Because he did con a lot of people out of quite a bit of money.
Right.
So in my mind, it's like, is there really something where it's a payback? Or is it something that you were bad and now this is your penalty? I don't know. I think because I'm older, I'm starting to think this way.
Right.
You know?
One theory is events just happen. Right. So why, so because we're being raised Catholic, right? We know that there's a God, and God is or are we predestined or is it predetermined? I think I mentioned that with Frank when we talked about the cancer, right? It's like, was this predetermined or were you predestined, right? Was this going to happen all
but
along?
could you have prevented it?
Could you have avoided it?
You know,
Is it avoidable?
when you think about it, it's like now I'm at the point where I think Frank mentioned a couple of months ago that, mom's always going to the doctor. It's like, well, yeah, you know what? If this pimple doesn't look normal, I'm going to the doctor. And is it because I have Medicare? Yeah. Because if you don't have a medical source or good insurance, you probably won't run to the doctor with a pimple that doesn't look normal.
I don't
You
know.
know?
It depends on your desire to live.
Right. But if you...
Right? Isn't that part
yeah,
of it? Right? It's
yeah,
like, hey,
but
if this could turn into something bad, and if I ignore it,
then it's
I
on
let
you.
it go too
Later
far.
on, you say, why the hell didn't I go sooner? So, and my sister passing away at 51, that she had leiomyosarcoma. Now, leiomyosarcoma is a tumor that's in the uterus.
Okay.
Okay. So the protocol, which is why with these insurance companies, they're good and they're bad
Right.
because they have
They're
a
mostly
protocol.
bad. Yeah.
And if they had gotten this tumor in by robotics and encapsulated it, but no, they did a scraping to pull it out, and the cancer cells got out and traveled through the blood.
Yeah.
And 4 years later, she was gone at 51. So later on, you say, why the hell? Now they changed it. The leiomyosarcoma, what they're doing now, because I've been reading up on it, and the protocol now is, if it's a tumor of any kind, you do not go in and scrape it away.
Right.
You go in, encapsulate it, but with laser.
Okay.
They do it with laser. They encapsulate it and pull it out. Whereas now, how many lives are saved now
Right.
because of it?
Right.
And again, is it because people die and by their mistakes is how we learn? Yeah.
And that really is the origin of medicine, right? So
It is.
how did we end up with penicillin? How do we end up with open heart surgery? Well, it was people experimenting, going, let's try this. Oh, that didn't work. Hey, let's try this. Oh, that one worked. Whatever. So there's part of that, but then there's also the really ugly side of this, which is good luck getting anything paid for, right? So the insurance company and the negotiation and that whole thing. So by the time that it actually gets approved, it's too late. There's that piece. But then there's the other part, which, from the drug company standpoint, hitting that for just a second, we're going to make $50 billion on this drug. And we're probably going to end up with, I don't know, $3 billion in settlements because it's going to kill people. We know it's going to kill people. Right? If anything, this is even worse than the mafia, because the mafia does it. Mafia is just like, you want to go gamble?
Get it
Here's
done.
10 grand. Here's 10 grand. Go have fun.
Get it done.
Where's my money? Right? That's the mafia. This is, you're in pain? Take this.
Wow.
It's probably going to kill you, But you said you were in pain. We know that a certain percentage of people are going to die, but we're going to make 50 billion. So we'll pay out 3 billion. I don't know if you know this, but one of the things that happens in this, and this is the thing with the peptides. So in trying to negotiate with these small compound pharmacies, they're trying to put forth this litigation that says, hey, okay, with the peptide thing, whatever, but we, Big Pharma, still get a grandfathered in thing that we can never be held accountable. We can never be held reliable. That's the whole thing with these, right? So it's like when they settle, they just settle because it's such a small number in comparison to what they made, right? But there isn't any real liability on the pharmaceutical company's behalf. There never has been.
So where
in our country,
where does the liability? Well, the distributor is the one making the money, or
the manufacturer of the drug
is making the money.
Is making ultimately the most amount of money, and then how that money and again, and take any drug, the route for that is we make the drug, and then we distribute a team of salespeople that go out to the world, and they're like, hey, you've got some people that are struggling with some pain, give them this, and here's a way for you to be able to determine whether or not they should get this medicine. Here's a little questionnaire. Straight from the manufacturer. So the manufacturer has the questionnaire made up that says, are you aching and, what is your pain level higher than a 5 most days? Do you lose sleep from, whatever? The questionnaire basically walks you down the path that most people would say, oh, I think you need it. And so then the pharmaceutical rep, which they still continue to make tons of money, these people that go out and do this, they meet with the doctors. Here's our latest and greatest. Here's where you should apply it. Let us know if you have any questions. And so that starts happening, and this is all from that documentary on Netflix where it became an epidemic. Knowing that it's going to kill people at the beginning was proven. No liability. Nobody went to jail. Nobody got sued. There was a settlement, but it was a voluntary. It was one of these, it's like a.
Is this to be enough to keep you quiet? Here it is.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what. So that $3 billion gets spread across a gazillion people, and everybody gets a little tiny bit, a couple $1,000,000 or whatever. So it's it's better than nothing. And then we go on and we do that. We repeat that. We do that again. We come out with the next thing and it's all. You listen to some of these podcasts. There's you get real quick. You get into this conspiracy theory where it's like it's more advantageous and way more profitable to keep America sick. There's no cure for cancer. They don't want a cure for cancer. They don't want a cure for most things. They just want to be able to treat the symptoms. They just want to be able to hit you with the new drug, Ozempic, and right. So this whole lifetime approach to Ozempic is a terrible way to lose weight.
I know, but unfortunately, though, some people do need it.
There is a small percentage of people that absolutely need that on a short-term basis to get them mobile again, to get them where they need to go. Yeah. But I know personally 3 or 4 people that are using it like Jenny Craig. Woo! I feel so good. Right. I've lost 24 pounds and I don't even want to drink alcohol anymore. I don't even desire it. I don't even want it. And I'm like, you're stuck on that forever. You're never coming off.
Right.
Why would you?
Weight Watchers just started it too now, because Aldo does need help to get the weight off due to his disability of not being able to get very mobile.
Yes.
So Weight Watchers decided at this point, well, yeah, people know they had to lose weight. So now Weight Watchers brought on the Wegovy and the semaglutide, which is the weight loss GLP-1s, I think is what they're called.
Gotcha.
So now, and Aldo's doctor told him, because he's been trying to get the Wegovy and he doesn't meet the criteria. So we're at the point now where the doctor said, so you're going to go on the compounded drug. Big deal. So they're at the point where it's not that my brother can't afford it. He can.
Right.
But Wegovy is being such jerks over. It's like, well, you still don't meet the criteria. Well, I'm wanting to pay you your $500 or $600 because he's part of Medicare. So they cut the bill down to that. But we still don't know whether we want to give it to you. So his own doctor, his primary care doctor, so Aldo, we're just going to get you on a compounded version of
Gotcha.
Wegovy,
Gotcha.
you know,
Yep.
and that's where we're at. And even when my husband went on Eliquis, I don't know if you're familiar with Eliquis,
What does
but
that
it's a
one do?
blood thinner
Blood thinner,
after you
okay.
have heart problems.
Yep.
So the first time Don got AFibs,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very serious. He was getting 10 to 20 a day and didn't know it.
Oh, wow.
So it's an instant blood clot.
Right.
If you can go to your brain or your lung. But anyway, we have a fabulous cardiologist, and he says, you're going to need Eliquis. Well, the side effects are your skin turns black. Whenever you get a bruise, it doesn't go away. It stays. So the first month, I think we paid $900 for Eliquis, and that was a discount.
Mm.
And the second month, it went to $500, and the fourth, I was like, we can't afford this. You don't want to die, but there was one night I couldn't sleep. It was 3:00 in the morning, and I'm watching this program, and a commercial comes up on Eliquis. And in the bottom line, it tells you the side effects, but it also says if you cannot afford this, yada, 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 pick up the phone and call. I forgot the name of the manufacturer at the moment.
Right.
And I'm like, whoa. And I quickly took down the 800 number. At 3:00 in the morning, I'm calling them the next day at 8. And they said, well, we're retired and we need Eliquis and you have a prescription. Yes, we do. And we went through, okay, we'll send you the form so you might be able to get this for free. I said, free? Like, oh my God. So I moved heaven and earth to get to that free, to make sure it was the correct. I go to Dr. Ambody's office and said, yeah, we can do all the paperwork for you. Filled it all out. And of course, it took about 4 or 5 weeks. But literally, I called the company and I said, how is this possible? You're charging these other people $900, $500 a month, and you're going to, well, you see, we have a foundation. What is the foundation about? Well, we would be taxed. They have to pay tax, these manufacturers, when they're making money. What do they call that? When they're making so much money that they have to have tax write-offs.
Right.
So they'll give it away to certain people.
Right.
So now that becomes a write-off.
Right. X number
So
of
they're
dollars worth.
using us
Yes.
to get the write-off. We need it. We can't afford it. But if you fall in the criteria of making less than X amount a year,
Right.
which luckily we were because we were on Medicare
Yep.
and Social Security. So all of a sudden, within 6 weeks, we get the package in the mail. 30 days supply for free. And and I'm like, oh my God, could you do this with everything? Well, I'm sure that these manufacturers, no matter what the drug is for, you're eligible if you qualify and you get it for free. Because they're making the big money on the other people that can't qualify.
Well, what's really interesting to me is because I think in the world of technology, right? Let's back up in time. All of the information about you is already there. They already know how much you make. They already know that you're on this. Everything is there. You have a digital record of everything. Why is it not automatic that as soon as you get that medicine, it's free?
Right. Why?
That's mafia. You know what I mean? That's even more mafia than mafia.
But these other people that are here that are either not working,
Right.
Illegal,
Right.
or possibly that they've had 7 kids and no other way of getting an income.
Right.
So they keep having babies. They're getting the free meds. We're paying for the meds. They're getting the babies to go to the hospital. They use the emergency room. They have to write it off. But when we go to the emergency room, it costs us $9,000. What?
Keep America sick. So the bill just never, ever has there been a scenario where think about all of the consuming that you do. Let's say you need a new TV, right? So you walk into the local Best Buy. They tell you, just take this one home. Is that the one I need? That's the best. Just take it home. Well, how much is it? Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about it. We'll talk about it later. Just take that one home. Plug it in. I'm sure you're going to love it. Right? And then 6 weeks. We get bills, medical bills sometimes a year and a half later.
Why?
The billing mix up. Oops, we forgot to, whatever, right?
Fell through the cracks.
Yeah, fell through the cracks, whatever the case, right? How do I even know that this is a legitimate bill? It's been a year and a half. You're out of your mind. That's the phone call. Like, what you expect me to pay a bill a year and a half after you've done this? Well, we put it through the and then and blah, 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 and my dog ate it. It's just all bullshit, right? So the medical in this country is really broken. At no other point in your life do you go get the service, have no idea how much it's going to cost until after.
That happened to me yesterday. We got a bill from Surgery Partners, who was my doctor that did the hand surgery, which is still suffering, but didn't come out that well. But it turned out, I said, wait a minute, I had a copay. I gave you $460 a day of the surgery. And now is this bill? Yes, ma'am, but we can't explain it. I said, wait a minute. You want me to pay a bill you can't explain? But you found my address. You found me. Well, yes, ma'am, but this was on this date. I said, I know. I had the surgery on June 10th. So they said, well, how do you want to pay for it? I said, I'm not paying for anything unless you prove to me. And they said, well, we'll have to go to collection. I said, look, I'm 79 years old. Do you really think I care about collections now?
Right.
What are you going to take? Right? So I said, I can call Dr. White and find out. She goes, okay, now wait a minute. I said, I'm not getting cocky or arrogant, but you called me, you sent me the bill, you need to explain to me. Well, I must have gotten her to the point. She put me on hold for like 35 fucking minutes. So I said, okay, I got to wait it out, right? She finally comes down. Hello, ma'am, are you still there? I said, yes. Are you there? She's like, yes. We found out what it's for. I said, oh, good. What's it for? You didn't meet your deductible for your insurance. Now, how was I supposed to know that when you want $271 from me? You can't explain it, but you found me. You have my dates. Now, they put the fear in you so a person that really can't talk or have family members, that they'll just write that little check and send it out.
That's right. That's what they're banking on. They're banking on the fact that
And my
somebody
doctor, when I had my back surgery 2 years ago, and they told me how extensive it's going to be, but it's minimal invasion of. I said, wait, you're going to cut my belly, you're going to cut my side, you're going to cut my back. How's that non-invasive? Or he's like, well, you'd have to do it that way. So wait a minute, I have to go find a gastroenterologist. No, we do all of that for you. I said, okay, so he's telling me all this because I had 4 compressed discs, really, really bad.
Yep.
And I said, okay. Meanwhile, I said, we're getting married. He goes, what? And this is Dr. Hartman. I love him dearly. I said, you're going into my body? We're getting married. He said, in all my years, I've never heard that. I said, anybody that goes into my body, we get married. So to this day, when I go to see him, he goes, how's it working for you? When are we getting married? Yeah. It's like, tomorrow.
That's funny.
The thing is, you have to, they call me cocky sometimes or pushy or bitchy. Like, but when you go through stuff in life, so don't go telling this little Italian that got on a ship with my dad and just came to the unknown where it could have been over.
Right.
So you think I don't have enough courage to do what?
That's it.
And if it worked out for me, fine. If not, I learned and I'm going to move on and do it another way.
Right.
But that's why I'm driven. And even with my kids tell me today, it's like, oh, mom is just, because it's that way, I didn't make myself that way. It happened that way because of my learned past experiences.
Right.
It's like if you fall and you can't pick yourself up. And that's what my dad told us when we used to go to school and these kids you'd pick on the little Italians or have a fight. And my father said, listen, if you don't pick yourself up, after that beating, you're going to get another beating from me because that's how it makes you stronger by starting over.
That's right.
And that's how, my kids don't have it the way I see it, but they didn't experience what I did either.
The pressure, right, is a different kind of pressure because the worst thing that happened to him is the worst thing that happened to him. And your daughter, same thing. The worst thing that happened to her is the worst thing that happened to her. And, again, easy times create weak people and tough times create hard people. And, there's a whole thing there, and every generation before thinks that they had it harder than the next generation, right? There's all of these different moving pieces.
But if your kids are not aware of the dangers out there,
right,
you can't make them see it. Are you
Right.
really supposed to stand by and say, okay, let him fall, and then I'll tell him I told you so? How do you do that when you start having more of a family life?
Yeah.
I was almost 6 when I had the whole family. See,
Right.
when you're younger and it's just parts of it, you can't put it together.
Right.
So now maybe when they're older and they go, bye-bye, I'll pencil you in for next Friday. You know what? Okay, Mom, I'll see if we can get together. That's going to hurt you
Yes.
big time.
Yes.
Because they're like, you don't realize how much I did for you as a child. They don't know that.
They don't. Yeah, their reality is their reality. So it's an interesting thing, and that and then there's some people never experience. One of my draws to the whole Italian thing in general was the big families, the people that lived near me, and the people I went to high school with, and the big family thing, and I'd be invited to that big family dinner, and it just
And it was
felt
food that brought
so
everybody
good.
together.
Yes,
You know?
the food was amazing, the people were amazing, everybody's laughing, it's a good time. The holiday parties, right? Those are always a good time. Right. And I didn't get that.
And if you
I
don't make
missed
the time
out.
for the good times, they're never there.
That's right. And you really gotta put effort in, right? If you're not putting effort in, it's not going to just happen magically. There's got to be some glue. Somebody's got to be orchestrating and organizing and bringing everybody together. Somebody's got to be doing that role. And if that person goes, that was my mother and my family. On my mother's side of the family, I was much closer than on my father's side, right? Same kind of thing. Those stories get lost. Nobody knows.
Yeah, I have a cousin that's 91, Carmela, and she's my father's second niece, because the first niece, my uncle and aunt had so many kids
Yes.
that when they couldn't make it. I don't know. She had a baby every 10 months, and my uncle's wife's sister couldn't have children, so they gave up their firstborn to her,
Wow.
and she moved to Argentina.
Wow.
My father never forgave his brother for doing that.
Wow.
Never, ever forgave his brother.
Right.
And they didn't talk for, I think, 20 years.
Wow.
And I mean, that is something.
That is something.
And my brother Rico, when he went to Argentina about 8-9 years ago, met up with her.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
That's something that, I would have loved to have met her, never met her. I always heard her name. I always heard the story. Imagine how she feels being given away.
The people that have a fear of abandonment or have experienced some trauma, there's a connection there because we have a shared, we have it in our family. There's some people that that didn't have a great relationship with their mother, for example. And so you see that you just, there's just kind of this law of attraction that just brings you together. You know what I mean? It's
and
like
all the other brothers, there was 5 brothers and 1 sister. It was just accepted that she was sacrificed. You would think, well, we offered her to come here and visit, and she always said no, or she couldn't come. So why didn't you get your ass on a plane and go see your sister?
right.
They were living very well in Rome. They did very well. So get your ass on a plane, and she's your sister. Your parents made that decision. She didn't.
Right.
I mean, imagine being separated like that. That is something I think about a lot, and I'm like, thank God my parents never did that. But
Yeah.
as much as I love my dad, and Frank will tell you, he was a fair and honest guy. But when I wanted to marry Don,
Yeah.
I had to prove I was a virgin, or he wouldn't let me get married to him.
Wow.
That wasn't a story in itself, and I don't think my kids ever knew the whole story.
Wow.
Don't forget, Don was 20 and I was 16. And I was 17 and I was in my junior year at high school. And I think from the stress at home, I was getting these cramps. And at school, stupid me, which I didn't know, went to the school nurse and I said I was having cramps and whatever. And she calls my aunt, tells my aunt to come to the school because she thinks I'm pregnant. That was a disaster. That was one of the times I almost never forgave my dad, but I was working at a 5 and 10 cent store called Neisner's in Port Chester. And Don was taking me to work, but my father was behind him. So I never was alone with my husband until our honeymoon night. If we went anywhere, I had to bring my sister or my brother, or we couldn't go. But anyway, my aunt goes to tell my parents that I might be pregnant. So my father comes down to Neisner's and get in the car. I didn't know what was going on. Well, my aunt and my uncle and my father brought me to Dr. Mazuka, my father's doctor. And Don was there behind, and I was just hysterical. And I can't believe how an American boy stood by me during this time when it's like, fuck these Italians, you know?
What's going on here?
Well, and then I didn't know what was going on. Because what happened was the nurse asked my aunt if I had a boyfriend.
Right.
And my aunt said yes.
Right.
So the assumption was.
Right.
So I went into Dr. Mazuka's office. My uncle, my mom, my father, and Don were in the waiting room. And it was after 6 at night. And Dr. Mazuka's nurse was there. And said to me, Dr. Mazuka first calmed my father down, and she came in the room and said, honey, I don't want to do this, but I want to just ask you a question. Have you and your boyfriend, has he touched your private? And I said, I didn't know what the word private meant. I was only 17 years old.
Right.
I said, what do you mean? She says, well, we have to make sure that you're not pregnant. And I said, pregnant? But at that time, I thought you got pregnant by French kissing.
Ah!
And I said, Donna's calling. So I said, no. And now I'm hysterical. She says, you have to remove your underwear.
Pull that right over just a little bit.
Microphone.
So I have to tell you this because this in itself is what made me marry Don, because I knew love at that moment.
Wow.
For him to go through all this. And literally, I did have an internal. And Dr. Mazuka had saved my father's life. He had ulcer, and it's so bad that the ulcer had also gone into the tube area of the stomach. I don't remember what part of that is. And he removed 3/4 of my father's stomach. Dr. Mazuka was a surgeon, but he was also a family doctor.
Okay.
So I went through that internal. I don't know how, but I did. And Dr. Mazuka, I remember him just pulling this rubber glove off and throwing it on the floor. And now I'm panicked. Like the nurse was there trying to hold on to me because I was petrified. And Dr. Mazuka goes out and starts yelling at my father. And my father's yelling at him. And my Uncle Frank is yelling at him. And then they're all crying. And then Dr. Mazuka said to my father, I'm going to call the police and I'm going to take your daughter. You're not getting your daughter back. So he says, my uncle says, you can't do that. He goes, oh, yes, I can. You made me do something that I never should have done. He said, I know that she's a child and you're the adult, but you should have never, ever had me do that to her. So to this day, I love my father dearly, but because somebody led him to believe that, and if that were the case, so what? But after that, I said to Don, I said, we can't get married. He goes, oh, yes, we are. We're going to elope. And I said, at that time, I was only 17. And I'm thinking, why should I elope? I'm not pregnant. I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
I never knew about sex at that time because they didn't teach that in school.
Right.
Sex education wasn't about intercourse.
Right.
At that time, it was cleanliness and having your menstrual cycle and, all of that. But that was when when I went home that night, I don't know how. I don't remember all of that. It was so traumatizing. But Don stayed in his car, parked in front of the house, not even in the driveway, all night till the
Wow.
next day. I had to go to school.
Yep.
And he met me at the parking lot at school.
Wow.
And he said, let's elope. And I said, no, Don, I can't elope. I want to get married in a church. I want to walk on the white rug. I want my white dress. And
Right.
he said, but your parents won't let you marry me. And that night, I think I went home. And that's when I said, if I don't marry Don, I'm going to be a nun.
Right. Wow.
And that was the worst week of my life.
Absolutely.
So that in itself, as I said, I love my parents dearly, but I guess it was his protection of me but he wanted me to marry Italian, was afraid that Don wasn't good enough for me
Right.
because of his father's history of drinking. There was so much going on.
Right.
But, today when I put all of this together, and I'm thinking, is that where I got my strength from? It's like, I'll just keep going. Is it the faith? I don't know what it is, but
I think that Demi Moore, the actress,
mm-hmm.
said it best. She said, once I realized that things happen for me instead of to me, right? So things happen to you. But she says, if I can look at it from the standpoint of things happen for me, this happened for me to be able to become the person that I am so that I could, or whatever, right? So yes, I think that everything that happens to you, and then the past also is your past, and it can't be changed. It can't be
No.
taken away from you, right? So I don't know if that moved you, but I'm moved emotionally. I mean, that
I can't tell you, what my father was thinking at that time.
right,
Because everybody in the family, I think, had so much faith and love and trust in me, in the sense of like, she's a good girl. And then all of a sudden, God forbid, it wouldn't, be that. I don't know what prompted that, but it was like to have all my relatives in the waiting room waiting for.
that's traumatic.
And then Dr. Mazuka said to my father, listen, I saved your life. And I remember hearing these words while I was in that room crying with the nurse. I saved your life, and you're not going to hurt this girl. And he goes, who are you talking to? I'm her father. He goes, yeah, but I have the power to take her away from you.
Right.
I couldn't believe, I'm saying at 17,
Right.
they could take me away from my parents.
Right.
I was all screwed up at that point.
Yeah. Hopefully it came from a place of love. Hopefully it came from a place of protection. There's no way to really know. And I will tell you, as a father with a daughter, the joke that I have with my daughter now is, yes, you absolutely can have a boyfriend when you're 30. I think that's a perfect time to start dating. No, Dad, when I'm 16. I'm like, 16's a little early. I think 30 sounds better. We do that already because there's
jokingly, but meaning it.
Yeah, well, there's a thing so I tried to put myself into his position and if someone, knowing what it's like to be in the position of the guy in that first time scenario, he doesn't want you to go through that. Right. So maybe that's the motivation. Like, please tell me this isn't true. Maybe he's hoping that it's not true. Maybe he's right. Maybe he's doing
but
damage
to think
control.
that my husband put up with all that too,
that is really the
I can't tell you what he means to me. And a lot of times we all have disagreements with our spouses, but I think when I forgot who I said it. I said, Don is my core, the core of my soul, because he literally stood by me.
Right.
That must be love.
It's something special for sure. Right? That's something special. Just first of all, from a guy's perspective, to be there and stay there, knowing that the father is probably ready to shoot you
at any moment, but he stood
I'm
by
staying.
it.
I'm not leaving.
That's
that's pretty amazing.
It is.
Yeah. We have to end there. I don't think you can top that.
I think sometimes that's what makes me what I am, and my kids can't say, well, Mom is so opinionated and so strong and so, yeah. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
no wonder why I'm the way I am. You think?
That's it.
You're not bad.
Well, thank you so much for doing this with us
Well,
today,
you're welcome.
and we'll do it again.
You topped mine.
That's
The
pretty
marathon
amazing.
session
I
where
knew
we-
it'd be great. That was fantastic. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, well, again, who else would, I mean, not who else would want to know this, but does somebody really care?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know?
Learn stuff now that I can make fun of you. No, I'm just kidding. No.
You weren't there when you were born and...
What do you mean I wasn't there when I was born?
When Pop,
I was there.
wait. You weren't there when Pop came to see you when you were born.
Oh, there we go. That's better.
Yeah, that's better.
You weren't there when you were born.
And you were born
Let me tell
and,
you something.
and you had your little, I think I told you, your ear lobe was tucked under when you were born. And Pop came over every day and made sure he paid the nurses to put that lobe back. Like, make sure I want to take care of my grandson. And at the time, he was the only grandson.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Beautiful.
I mean, look at how little everybody, you know.
Non più tra i farfalloni amoroso,
Yeah.
notte e giorno di torno girano, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto ad un gino d'amor. Delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto ad un gino d'amor. Cherubino alla vittoria, alla gloria militar, cherubino alla vittoria, alla gloria militar, alla gloria militar, alla gloria